Welcome to the Business Spotlight, and today the spotlight is shining on Doug Johnson from Mesh Energy. It's a difficult word to pronounce, Doug, when you're foreign. Mesh Energy. It's a good start. Welcome to the Business Spotlight today.
Hi there, hi Nell.
And I've practiced that as well. That's even worse, right? Anyway, to start us off with, tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been in business for.
Sure. Who I am? I mean, I'm Doug Johnson. Back in the day, I qualified as a mechanical engineer. For my sins, I went through A levels and did a degree and did a master's in engineering. That lasted a grand total of 3 years before I got bored of being an engineer in the real world, and decided to join a kind of a startup that was in renewables. And really, that was the kind of the start of the journey. So that was back in 2008. And ever since I've been involved in the renewables sector, in the business Mesh Energy as a kind of an entity that I started for myself, and that's been going since I first came up with the idea just over kind of 10 years ago, really. It was a slow burn at the beginning. Not everybody was into sustainability, but over the last 5 years, it's really transformed into something incredible, which is what we're pushing ahead with today.
So tell me a bit more about what Mesh Energy actually does. I was determined to get that right.
Sure. So in a nutshell, Mesh Energy is what I would call a kind of an independent and holistic building sustainability design consultancy. So practically what we do, the business is split into kind of two parts. Clients come to us with either existing buildings or an idea for a new building, and we help them navigate all of the compliance issues that are now around buildings, making them more sustainable.
Yeah.
We help them figure out what we call the kind of the right energy strategy. So what's the best technologies to put in, how far they should go with improving the fabric of the buildings. Then as we get into kind of detailed design, the other half of the business deals with full kind of building services design, and we're talking about homes as well as much larger commercial premises and anything in between. Increasingly, people are, when they're building these things, we're still helping out, making sure that they're still as sustainable as they should be, and when things change during construction, which they invariably do, that they're not making a big mistake and they're still going to be compliant at the end. And increasingly, we're getting involved in measuring people's energy. So for new builds, to make sure they're sustainable, but for existing properties, trying to figure out where everybody's energy's going so that they can then tackle, in a quite a precise way, how they go about saving energy. So there's various kind of different layers, but as a consultancy, we're independent, we're kind of technology agnostic, and we're trying to help clients out, disseminate all this swirling mass of options and numbers and products into a plan, and ultimately try and help them spend the right money to save considerably on bills that otherwise they would be bearing.
Now you're in an industry where the future is, gosh, there's so much change going on, so we'll definitely come to that, because that's definitely something we do at the Spotlight.
Sure.
To start with, let's go backwards a little bit. But what inspired you, or what motivated you to start your own business?
That's a good question. I mean, honestly, kind of full transparency, it was poor management as an employee.
Okay.
The engineering business that I worked for was a kind of an IBM spin-off company, layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of management, and just kind of poorly managed there. And actually, even when I got into the renewable energy kind of game, I did do a short spell, again being managed actually by a Spanish company, and again there were lots of promises made about if you hit these targets then you'll get this, and we hit those targets and I didn't get that, and I was just kind of getting a bit tired of it. I had aspirations for doing something kind of entrepreneurial, and I gained enough experience there that when it happened the final time, getting kind of trampled on as an employee, that was enough. And I thought, look, I know enough. I should just be brave and see how I get on. And it was a big step to take, but you know, I had a budget, and you know, once you're in charge of your own destiny, as long as you can kind of get over the perceived risk. I mean, I was, you know, I had a mortgage, or essentially rent to pay, and you know, a car to run, and all those other kinds of things. But I had a pot of money, and I thought, honestly, if I can't make it work for that pot of money, then fine, I'll go back. But as it happened, I did manage to get it to work, and have been trying to do the same thing for the last decade, and it seems to be working out.
Fantastic. So talk me through some of the challenges that you've had in these last 10 years.
I think we've only got like 15-20 minutes. We need like a 24-hour podcast to list all of them. I think, you know, the same ones come up over and over again. I think it's one of the biggest challenges, or one of the biggest metamorphoses, is the understanding or trying to figure out the difference between what is real risk, as in what is going to put your, you know, I was going to say life in jeopardy, or your, you know, the amount of money that you can take home in jeopardy. So kind of a high level risk, and what is just a pimple in the road. And a lot of people, and this is where I started out, I certainly found as an entrepreneur that my appetite for risk has grown increasingly, because you realize that the perception of risk, what a lot of people perceive as risk as medium or high, is actually low. And when you plan, when you've got a few other kind of plans, you can kind of cover it off, you reduce the risk right down. So it's a real head game. You can have awful lows, and within 12 hours a massive high. And so one of the other things to get over, as well as kind of getting used to what is actual risk and what is not risk really, is not wearing your heart on your sleeve too much. I mean, I'm human. I still, you know, still have emotions, but it's figuring out when to, learning to ride the roller coaster. And that is, you know, of course, you're trying to make sure the dips, you can pull out of a dip, but I say most of the dips are quickly followed by a high, and it's really savoring the highs, or an intermediate high or a high, and not dwelling on the lows. You have them every single day, you have them every single week, you have them every single month. And it's all brain training. I mean, a lot of people think of brain training as like a game on the iPad or whatever it is, but in business, it's training your brain to just not get worn out by it. It is. I mean, it's happened today. It's a classic example. It's happened today. You feel down, but you've just got to get up, get away from your desk, go for a walk. Think, you know, so what? There's 5 opportunities coming tomorrow. I've forgotten about how awful that bit of news I've just received is. And that is that's a big learning. It happens every single day. So you do get used to doing it. And you know, if those things had happened 10 years ago, I would have thought about them in a completely different way. And so I mean, that's a big one. But the other, I mean, practically another really big one is cash flow. I mean, I've taken the decision as a business to invest almost wholly every bit of money that we earn in growing the business. Some people, you know, once they make £10,000, would take £9,000 of it out and leave £1,000 in and scrabble around with £1,000. And so, you know, we've put the business on a trajectory, and this is my personal choice, to reinvest money in for growth. And that means that you've really got to keep a super duper eye on cash flow. And I probably look at my cash flow spreadsheet 10 times a day to make sure that, you know, I'm on it. And it's almost kind of an obsessive thing. It's kind of my vice, just like looking at the cash flow spreadsheet.
Addiction to cash flow spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, that is the heartbeat of the business. For whatever invoicing you're doing, you know, cash is king. And I used to think the hell does that mean? And it really is the lifeblood. It gives you the opportunity to start talking to your bank manager a few days or a few weeks in advance if you need to, or figuring out who you need to be chasing for invoices, because it's going to get a bit sticky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, cash flow is a challenge, but I think it's not only is it important, but it becomes more of a challenge when you're putting that money to use and investing rather than stockpiling.
Yeah.
It certainly keeps you on your toes, and something I've had to get really used to. And again, not end up with sleepless nights knowing some important things have got to happen in order to make sure that things get paid. Obviously with more staff, it becomes a bigger.
What I was just about to ask, what's the difference for you between when you were maybe starting out and in those first couple of years versus now, because you've got a fairly large team? Like, does a roller coaster feel different? Does a cash flow situation, do you make different decisions because of
it? I think actually the decision making is the same. The first and foremost, you can't get away from the fact that when you have a team, there's an obligation there. I heard somebody once say, once you take on team members, you've got that many more mortgages to pay. They're not your mortgages, but you've got an obligation there to make sure that people can meet their commitments. They work hard for you, they invest their time, and if you've got the right business, they go above and beyond to deliver. And so the least you can do is once a month is pay people on time. So as difficult as cash flow gets, and of course you've got subcontractors which have terms on their payment. The feeling of responsibility of making that end of month payroll is, for me, is personally the closest one. So if all hell breaks loose, the first thing I will do is find money to meet the payroll at the end of the month. Everything else can kind of wait, and business is different, but it's certainly that personal obligation to meet payroll is a massive one. But just generally speaking of cash flow, I don't think different decisions get made. You've got to make sure that your overdraft can cope with bigger dips. Hopefully the money you spend within reason gets bigger, but as the business grows, the income that you get is bigger as well. So you don't really realize it, and again, until you take a step back and think, 5 years ago, what was I invoicing? What was I paying out? Wow, that disappears in a few days' time. I make that in a few days. Whereas now it's you kind of get used to the flow of money. The numbers get bigger. Yes, the challenges get bigger. But they're more manageable because you're used to. You've kind of, again, going back to training. You've kind of got used to bigger numbers, and that's kind of good. The comfort zone, I guess, is being stretched all the time without you knowing.
Yeah, love that. So you've started with the challenges and the roller coaster, and I love that. I often talk about the roller coaster. So let's go up. What have been some of the wins that you've had in the last 10 years?
I don't know. I think some of the biggest wins, one of the things that I set out to do, having started a business where I was mismanaged as an employee repeatedly, not just once, not just twice, repeatedly. I mean, one of the reasons, and I think a few entrepreneurs do this, if not maybe the majority of entrepreneurs do this, they try and create a business which is how they want to be treated or would be treated for their staff. They're trying to create a culture which is, something that they thought was, kind of pie in the sky when they were working for a more kind of traditional kind of institution or an older business. And that's what I set about creating. So I had a kind of a vision for a business that I would enjoy working in. And that has been a decade's worth of investment. When I took on my first staff member, it didn't really dawn on me how critical that first staff member was, or the second staff member, or the third staff member, because in that fetal stage, culture is what those 1, 2, 3 people are. And what you form in those early stages, a bit like forming a planet, starts attracting the right kind of material, or the wrong kind of material, depending on the personalities and the culture you're projecting. So I think the biggest success that we have, that I've done looking back on it, is continue to build a business and attract people who I want to be working with, who reflect the culture that I wanted 10 years ago. And that doesn't happen overnight. There is, you know, a lot of work that goes into that. So taking a step back, that's been the kind of the biggest success. You know, but I would say the second one is, again, just kind of being a bit brave, really. There's a fine line between taking stupid risks as an entrepreneur and uncalculated ones, and then ones which push out that envelope and are kind of a bit innovative, but you haven't got all the answers. We've all heard of the saying, kind of jumping off a cliff or building a plane on the way down.
I've
totally. Kind of got used to doing that, and you know like what bits you kind of need in your hands before you jump off. And if you haven't kind of got enough bits, you know it's going to be a pretty hard landing. But
it's all right because you've got that too.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of think, well, the ground's not that hard, so if I bounce, I'm only going to break a couple of legs, but they'll fix after 6 weeks, and then we'll be back onto it. So yeah, I think the second one has been the risks that the calculated risks that we've taken. Not all have paid off because they don't. But you're just being brave enough to innovate and create like a new value proposition, which your clients all of a sudden say, wow, that's really cool. You know, you've heard about them whinge about it, and all of a sudden you've come with a new value proposition. And they said, you know, we'll pay for that. And you agree a sum of money, and magic, you know, you're doing work for something that didn't exist, you know, a few months ago. So I would say those are probably kind of the two biggest ones. You know, you always win kind of big contracts and small contracts, and you know it's great to hit your sales targets for a month, but the sales targets just grow and grow and grow. So, but yeah, I would say culture and pushing the innovation and you know, comfort zone envelope are probably kind of two of the biggest successes, and other team members do that as well, because that's what we encourage culturally.
So how do you celebrate wins as a team?
Certainly there are kind of two ways, really. We use Teams as a product, and when we, as a sales team, when we make sales, the first thing that we do, and I do chastise people for not doing this, is regardless of how big the sale is, you know, we tell others in the team, you know, I might be doing commercial sales, but the rest of the team might be doing domestic sales. And just because we make a £2,000 domestic sale doesn't mean I don't want to know about it. You know, we're all trying to meet a combined target. So whether it's a £2,000 sale, £20,000 sale, £200,000 sale, you know, the team kind of shares that. You know, of course, we congratulate each other. There's even more congratulations when it's on the last day of the month and you're just a bit shy of the target. So in kind of an inter-team, just simple kind of congratulation. Invariably, if we're in the office, we'll kind of have a wander through and, you know, say well done, and talk about how tricky it was or how many proposal iterations we went through to get there. But finally, we've got it over the line. But we have a weekly team meeting as well, which again, we update the wider team on what's happening. Not everybody's a salesperson, not everybody's in operations. But you know, we celebrate those wins, and again, particularly if it's a bigger project, we'll say, look, you know, we've made a real stride towards our, you know, January sales target or February sales target, whatever it is. And so the rest of the team know, and you know, they invariably, because of the blended service that we have, some of those team members have probably contributed pre-sales wise, because they may have spoke technically to the client or been on a call with them to kind of give them some peace of mind. And you know, so they've had an active part to play, and it's great to, you know, they'll get name checked and they celebrate as a kind of a team. So we do that in team meeting as well as just into sales team.
Nice, I like that. As a business owner, what still keeps you awake at night?
I don't know. I mean, I think, well, cash flow, as I mentioned. But beyond that, I mean, we are very, very lucky. It's taken a long time, but the tailwind is behind sustainability and sustainable building design in the UK. Culturally, it's a very popular thing to do. Even just today, they've created a new ministerial position for net zero. You know, net zero. Mr. Shapps is now, you know, MP for whatever net zero position they've created. So, you know, a lot of things are going our way. And I think what keeps me up is, you know, I don't beat myself up too much, but I do worry that not being brave enough, we're not making the most of an opportunity that's ahead of us. as a business, we want to be in the top few names that are mentioned in the UK when, you know, sustainable building design comes up.
Right.
You know, we're not there at the moment.
Okay.
And so with the industry essentially exploding, for want of use of a better kind of adjective, I'm thinking, okay, you know, what are our competition, if you believe in competition, you know, what are they doing? What products are they coming up with? Are we being progressive enough?
Right.
And making sure that we're a bit like the surfer analogy, you're paddling to catch the wave rather than seeing the wave head off into the distance and you're on the back of the wave, just kind of sat there aimlessly on your board, waiting for the next one to come along. And I think that's, you can't just wake up and change that, but it's just a constant nagging, you know, are we doing enough? Are we being innovative enough? There's something mentioned that, yes, it's going to take effort to investigate that opportunity or see if that's a complementary service, but you know, should we be doing that, or is it just, you know, is that just going to fizzle and die? And it's not black and white, it's grey, and that's what I constantly think about, making sure we're not doing ourselves a disservice. And again, all the people that are putting effort into the business, you know, I'm not making a strategic misdecision that means that they're gonna miss out, you know, because I haven't given it enough kind of due care and attention.
And actually that nicely links me into sort of, we've already alluded to it, your industry is just rapidly growing and gaining a lot of traction. So where's this going in the next 5 years?
If I knew that, I'd put some money on some big bets. but I've got a fair idea. I mean, you know, I think it's been a long time coming, but regulation is catching up with the progressive nature of what we need to do. The UK over the last 20 years has been asleep at the wheel, particularly as far as the built environment is concerned. And a lot of voluntary schemes have kind of come and gone. There've been stuff promised that just fizzled out, funny enough, because there's not enough money to spend on a scheme that's going to change the way that the UK uses energy. Magically, we always find something to spend our money on, and everybody kind of continues to whinge about their sector hasn't spent enough money on it. But so beyond very, very fast tightening compliance in the way that certainly new buildings are being built, but also existing buildings with their energy ratings, you know, the penalties that commercial clients are going to have to pay if they don't improve the stock of their commercial buildings, as well as domestic clients. Beyond that really, really tightening regulation, I think there will be a continued focus on businesses getting serious about their sustainability credentials. There's been a lot about greenwashing for a long time. There is, you know, very, very reputable, well, there's a number of reputable schemes out there, but as a B Corporation, which is a global kind of mark of responsible business, sustainable business, transparent business, you'll find a lot of heavy hitting serious businesses going beyond just ESG reports to presenting what they're doing, coming up with roadmaps, because for their stakeholders and shareholders, that actually means something. And funny enough, those businesses will have investment put their way because they're actually walking the walk rather than just producing a big kind of thick report and not really doing anything else. So the responsibility of business owners will change. And I think, you know, there could be massive technology improvements. I think that's one of the really interesting things that, you know, a number of people have put solar panels on their roofs. A lot of people are talking about battery technology, electric vehicles are coming on. The infrastructure is slowly coming on. But there's going to be massive kind of technology revolution. And you've seen this in kind of other industries where you get to this kind of critical mass where you know that enough people will buy product, the government's supporting it, the government's got a direction that investors' money, and as we're seeing, goes from supporting oil and gas to sustainable technologies and processes and methodologies and businesses. And we're talking about billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds. And money makes a difference. You know, money fast tracks you know, technological improvement and hopefully grants for homeowners and businesses to get this stuff done rather than financing it themselves. So there's going to be technology change, there's going to be regulation change, there's going to be continued cultural pressure, and for businesses, you know, they're going to have to show what they're doing to show that they're making a difference, or become irrelevant. You know, there's this, one of the biggest difficulties is so many things are going to be changing over the next 5 years. You either have got to tread water and do something, or you just drown under it, at all kinds of levels. And that's really, really scary for a lot of people, and particularly people that don't handle change well. But that's what we're in. Everything is changing at the same time. And I don't think that's happened, well, certainly not in my lifetime that I'm aware of. And in some ways that's exciting, and an opportunity. In other times it's going to be the death of many businesses who can't get their act together. Scary.
Totally. So we see a lot of opportunities in you, but what are then equally the challenges that come with all of that? And especially for you as a business owner, like, what kind of challenges do you see for your business with all these changes? Yeah,
I think one of the biggest risks is trying to chase everything down. It's a bit like a bit like being a magpie and kind of walking through a jewelry store. You know, you could kind of run over there and get that shiny thing, and run over there and get that shiny thing, run over there and get that shiny thing. You've still got to fundamentally understand, and this is what we've got to be clear on, and is kind of what our unique selling point is, where strategically we want to be making money. You know, I could walk down Farnham High Street and knock on every business owner's door, and walk up and go to the houses, knock on everybody's door and have a conversation with them about energy, saving money, whether they want to put technology in. And I could sell to every single one of those people. And maybe some of them I would waste a lot of my time, and others would be absolute gold dust. And kind of so strategically, we've got to figure out as a business, given the level that we want to get to, the size of business and contracts we want to be doing. So I think one of the business risks is just running around like a headless chicken, and seeing all of those opportunities and feeling like we've got to be part of all the opportunities. We've got to find our way through that, and you know, come up with a plan. And that's, you know, that's more of my job now, as I've got a team who does all the real work. It's my job to strategically make sure that we're not wasting our time in the work that we're doing, and the jobs that we're winning. So that's probably the business risk.
I love that. You're in charge of creating the roadmap.
You know, I'd say that's my responsibility, and I've got to try and look a couple of years down the line to try and educate the guys and look out for opportunities, and do my best to try and get it right when the sweet spot hits, and people are converted, and the people are prepared to pay the money for it. That's what we've been doing for the last kind of 10 years, and it seems to continually work. Seems to.
Well done. What or who do you find inspiring?
Sorry, say that again.
What or who do you find inspiring?
I think, what do I find, or who do I find inspiring? I've got on our company's website, for everybody who works for the business, we ask them 3 things. One of them is a bucket list thing that they've got on their bucket list.
I saw that, and I love that, may I add.
The second one is, who would you most like to sit down at dinner with? And the third one is, I'm trying to remember what the third one is. It is, so you've got bucket list, and something that people don't know about you. So something that, you know, you might tell somebody at a dinner party that otherwise they wouldn't know. And on mine is Barack Obama. And the reason that I chose Barack Obama is, I think when I look at him, I mean, it's a hell of a job running the United States at the best of times. Or being that figurehead, a lot of pressure there. But I think one of the things that inspires me about Barack Obama particularly is his ability to, I mean, he's an incredible orator. I mean, I've got better at speaking. I still waffle on endlessly, you know, as probably we all do when we're talking about something we're passionate about.
Absolutely.
But being able to be measured, to plan what you're going to say, and to really be insightful and impactful about what you say is very, very rare. You know, it's a bit like JFK. You know, he was an incredible orator, and there are you know, sound bites from JFK doing talks, and you know, there should be a lot from Barack Obama. And I think the ability to just take a step back, consider your thoughts, put those together and share them with an audience which is so considered that people pay attention, and everybody's got all kinds of stuff going on, but to really make an impactful statement, you've obviously got lots of advisors, is incredibly inspiring. You know, again, it's got nothing really to do with business. It's the ability to filter information and present it in a way which just leaves people aghast at what's being said. You may not believe or agree with what's being said, but the way that it's being presented, I think, is an incredibly inspirational thing to be able to do, and something I think we can all work on until probably we get buried or you know, reach the very end. It's never something that you kind of master. And I've certainly got a long way to go. But that's I would say Barack Obama was inspirational for me, just for that single reason alone. Various other reasons, but that's a big one.
And actually nicely links me into my next question, which is, what do you still want to achieve in the next 5 years? So speak like Barack Obama is already one of those.
Yeah, exactly. I think achievement wise, I've come a long way since I started the business, and literally when I started this business, it was in the moldy bedroom with a laptop with an idea. And you know, we've got a growing team. That the industry has changed quite considerably. I've learned a huge amount how to run and how not to run a business. And I think for me, the next 5 years, I mean, personally, the next 5 years is just about that continued growth. It took me a long time, and my business coach was very good at doing this. It took him a long time to get into my head that I was a business owner, not an engineer.
Nice.
I kept talking to myself. I used to introduce myself as an engineer. I'm not that. And given all the big entrepreneurial personalities we have on the global stage now, I felt like I was kind of an imposter by saying I was an entrepreneur. Like the bar is so like
You're like,
or a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just getting increasingly more comfortable with that, not getting lazy about it, but pushing, and in doing that, continuing to keep this culture that we've got, bringing together like-minded individuals, incredible variety of like-minded individuals, and creating something, not only kind of excelling in our sector and becoming a brand which is seen as valuable for that very reason, but just kind of creating something new, and you know, just being proud to be part of the fact that we thought about that, or we even executed it, and people pay good money for that, and we're seen as the leader, or you know, one of the companies that are up there. But a lot of it, I think personally, is just about, let's keep going and let's see how far we can get. The last 5 years has definitely been about blowing kind of self-limiting beliefs, and I think that, you know, I'd be doing myself a disservice if I thought things that limited me now weren't blowable, upperable. And who knows what, if we can do that in 5 years, what else can we do in the next 5 years? It continues to surprise me.
Yeah, lovely. And actually, 2 more questions. What would you, if you had an opportunity, what would you say to an 18-year-old Doug now, knowing what you know now?
It's so difficult to say. I mean, like, cut out all that useless stuff that you did and get started and start your own business tomorrow. Well, I could say that, but I think that we all, and me included, you know, the journey that got me from 18 to when I started my business meant that I actually started my business. If it had gone all too smoothly and swimmingly, and you don't have those experiences, you don't fully really buy into why you're doing this thing. You know, when you're doing long weeks, when you're getting up at 5 a.m, when you're going to sleep at ridiculous time, you're working weekends, those are the things that drive you, because you don't want to be going back to those things. And if you haven't been through that hardship, it's like, well, surely there's an easier way of making money than this. So you kind of you give up, and so you don't realize. So the journey, I would encourage the 18-year-old Doug to just feel it out. You know, make some mistakes and truly kind of understand. Don't put up with you know, being treated, not dirt's a bit kind of excessive, but knowing when your limitations are and being confident in what you think your core skill set is, and understanding if people would value that, and whether you actually need a manager, whether you need a reliable monthly income to really, you know, get to where you want to get to. It definitely, being self-employed has its perks, but in many respects it holds a lot of people back just because they don't understand their appetite for risk and the opportunities that, you know, kind of self-employment or entrepreneurship brings.
I agree. So actually, gosh, you've been very good at setting up the links here, Doug. That's fab. What would your two top tips be for anybody that right now would consider going into a business or is thinking about starting a business? What are your top 2 pieces of advice?
I think, man, two is difficult. I would say understand that you're going to have to take a risk. It's not, nobody goes into business knowing that they're going to turn over 100k in their first year, or are going to make £1 million in the first like 5 years of it. Nobody knows that. It is always a wing and a prayer, and it's going to be tough work to get there. Okay. It's very easy to fall into the trap where you see these overnight millionaires or billionaires to think that that's it just simply isn't. That is, I used to have loads of hair when I started out my business, and I've lost more follicles than I can count. And that's it's just hard graft. So you've got to take a risk and work hard, but you've got to know that what you're doing has value to at least somebody or some kind of niche sector. You've got to have the confidence that whatever is inside your head, or whatever report you can produce, or a calculation that you can do, or a service that you can offer, somebody will part money with. Now, you might not be 100% confident, but at least see a kind of a similar business where that's kind of happening, or maybe you've done a bit of part-time work and somebody said, oh yeah, you know, if you did that, I would have given you 50 quid, but you've kind of not done it for that reason. So yeah, work hard, realize you've got to take risks, and have an inclination that somebody will actually pay for what you know.
I love that. Gosh, we could keep talking for
I know
hours.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I kind of feel like there's a gazillion other questions I still want to ask you, but sure. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story and some of your learnings. It's fantastic. I'll make sure that all the links to connect up with Doug are in our comment section below. Thank you very much for watching the Business Spotlight. Until next time.